A week before the holidays, Linda stood by the living room window in our house outside Dallas. She hadn't touched the tea in her hand. The steam curled upward like it was trying to leave the room. So was I. "I'm pregnant," she said. A pause. One breath. Then, twins. She still didn't look at me. Not when she said it. Not after. Just kept staring through the glass like someone was out there waiting for her. But we both knew the only thing outside was the driveway where I parked the car I paid for. The blinking Christmas lights behind her flickered red and green across her sweater. They made her look like a postcard. Festive on the outside, blank on the back. I stood there too long, trying to feel something. Joy, anger, relief. But all I felt was the slow settling of dust inside my chest. I didn't smile. I didn't say congratulations. I didn't walk across the room and touch her. I asked the only question that mattered. "When did you find out?" Her fingers tightened slightly on the mug, just enough for the handle to creak. "A few weeks ago." "When?" She hesitated. "Before Thanksgiving. So before the trip. Before Denver. Before that 3-day strategic planning retreat." She went on with Ryan, her boss, her mentor, her old friend from graduate school. Before the changed password on her phone. Before the deleted call logs. Before the sudden need for space. I nodded, slowly, like a man reading the final page of a book he already knew he hated. "You didn't think to tell me then?" Her voice didn't crack. It didn't rise. It just cooled. "I wasn't sure how you'd take it." I laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because the sound of it kept my ribs from collapsing inward. "You mean after Denver? Or before?" She turned from the window then, finally looked at me, but not like someone looking at a husband. More like a coworker preparing for a difficult performance review. "You're being paranoid." I didn't answer, because I already knew I wasn't. There had been signs. Quiet ones. The perfume that wasn't mine left in the car when she returned. The receipts she'd forgotten to throw out. Dinner for 2 at a steakhouse I'd never heard of. A hotel suite booked for client comfort, but paid for on her personal card. Still, I had said nothing. Because that's what I'd learned marriage was. Swallowing doubt until it turned into ulcers. I told myself I was being ridiculous. That I was overthinking. That love was just stress with nicer packaging. But now she was standing here, telling me she was pregnant. With twins. Twins. Like that made it sweeter. Like doubling the betrayal somehow turned it into a gift. "I don't want to fight," she said. And I didn't want to cry. So I didn't. Instead, I began taking mental notes. Not of her words, but of everything around us. The half-decorated tree we never finished. The wrapped gifts under it, none of them addressed to me. The stockings on the wall, hers, Jess's, the dog's. No stocking with my name. No space left on the mantel for one. A house full of cheer. And no room for me in it. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I didn't touch her phone. I just started collecting things. Quietly. Like a man preparing to evacuate before the flood. Like someone who knows the ground's about to open and doesn't want to leave fingerprints in the rubble. That night, when she fell asleep in our bed, the same bed where she turned her back to me more often than not, I stood over her for a long time, listening to the shallow rhythm of her breath, watching her face for signs of guilt. There were none. I walked into the bathroom and took her toothbrush, the one she packed for Denver, and sealed it in a plastic bag. I drove it across town to a private lab that owed me a favor from an old consulting job. No paperwork. No chain of custody. Just a quiet nod and a "give me a week." Then I drove to the bank. Changed all the passwords. Transferred liquid funds into my separate account. Froze the holiday credit card. Set up new security questions. Ones she wouldn't know the answers to. I wasn't being vindictive. I was being prepared. Men like me don't get to rage. We get to calculate. Over the next few days, I watched the house with new eyes. Every movement, every conversation was re-examined. Jess, her daughter from her first marriage, was suddenly warmer. More affectionate. Almost too much. She hugged Linda without being asked. Washed her own plate. Offered to wrap gifts. I should have seen it then, the guilt. but I mistook it for maturity, for progress. Linda wore oversized sweaters, drank more tea than wine, took naps, complained of back pain. Every symptom followed the script perfectly, except none of it felt earned. None of it included me. I asked once if she'd gone to the doctor yet. Not yet, she said too fast. I'll go after Christmas. I nodded, then booked a consultation with a lawyer the next morning. The cracks were already there, but the dinner is what broke it. Christmas Eve. Prime rib, mashed potatoes. Jess lit candles like she was hosting her own dinner party. I carved the meat in silence, passed plates down the table like a waiter. It was Linda who started the conversation. I think after the new year we should convert the office. Make it a nursery. My office. The one room in the house where my name still lived on the walls. Jess giggled. You'll just have to work from the garage like everyone else. I smiled, thinly. Guess I'll finally get that heater installed. Linda didn't look up, didn't laugh, just kept slicing into her meat with robotic precision. Jess leaned back in her chair, scrolling on her phone. Then, with the same casual cruelty she used when rejecting my cooking, she said, "You're not even part of this family. You just pay for Wi-Fi." Silence. Not the kind that follows shock. The kind that reveals it was never a surprise. I looked at her calmly, opened my mouth, ready to speak. Not to scold, but to ask her one question. When did you decide I was disposable? But Linda cut in. She's not your daughter. Don't correct her. The words hit like a tire iron to the chest. Fast, cold, without warning. No one flinched. Not Jess, not the dog, not even Linda. I put my fork down, stood, picked up my plate. I think I'll eat in the garage, I said. Neither of them looked up. Later that night, I sat at my desk in the office soon to be converted into a nursery. My hands hovered over the keyboard like I was about to write a goodbye letter. But there was nothing to say. Instead, I opened the spreadsheet I'd been updating in secret. Line by line, I listed every recurring payment. Jess's tuition, Linda's car lease, groceries, streaming services, family phone plan, insurance, mortgage, all of it, all under my name, all built like scaffolding around a house that had already condemned me. I didn't delete anything yet, just stared at the numbers, watching them glow like warning signs in the dark. Then I closed the file and turned off the lights. I didn't sleep that night, just sat in the dark listening to the sound of Jess's laughter through the wall. Linda's voice, soft and sweet, congratulating her on the comment. As if I really was just the Wi-Fi guy. As if I had never held that child's hand when her real father forgot her birthday. As if I hadn't paid for the braces, the school trips, the damn dog. But that's the thing about ghosts. Eventually, even the living forget we were ever real. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice or slam a door. That's not how I was built. I was raised to be still under pressure. To wait. To bleed without noise. So that night, after Linda dismissed me with a single sentence, after Jess reduced me to a modem with a wallet, I didn't fight. I stood up, cleared my plate, carried it to the sink. I didn't even rinse it. "Good night," I said, as calmly as if I were clocking out of a job I no longer cared about. They didn't answer. That silence stayed with me through the night. It settled in my chest like dust inside an unused piano. I lay on the couch in the office, listening to the heater rattle, listening to the bones of the house creak like they were trying to tell me something. I listened hard. Not for Linda, not for Jess, just for the moment my heart would finally give up trying. It never came. What came instead was morning. Cold, bright, sharp around the edges. They were still asleep upstairs. I moved quietly. I always did. The first call I made was to the school. Jess's tuition had just been paid through the spring semester, but I let them know she'd be withdrawing. No transfer, no extension, no explanation. Then I called the car rental company. Linda's name was on the lease, but the payments? Mine. Not anymore. I ended it. Cited financial hardship for faster closure. The woman on the line tried to offer me discounts, alternate options. I declined. I didn't need negotiation. I needed finality. Next was the family phone plan. I logged in, removed both lines, left only mine active. The bank was slower, multiple accounts, shared access, years of tangled history. But clarity is the blade that cuts through red tape. I drained the joint savings into a separate account and disabled the debit cards. Froze the grocery card. Canceled the backup credit line. No warning. No note. Just silence. By the time they woke up, the house was a different place. No internet. No heat. I had terminated the autopay to the gas company. No groceries, the last delivery had been canceled. No ride, the car gone by mid-morning, picked up by a tow truck I scheduled at 6 a.m. And me? I left the house key on the kitchen counter. No note. No goodbye. Just the key. The front door clicked behind me like the sound of a chapter closing. And I walked away. That evening, as the sky turned a deep bruised blue and the streets filled with the kind of cold that bites through gloves, I went back. Not inside. I stood at the end of the driveway, watched the house. Linda opened the door just after sunset, still in her pajamas, her phone dead in her hand like a limb gone numb. The lights flickered. She stood there confused, not panicked yet. Confused like someone who's misplaced something but can't remember what it was. "Nothing's working," she said when she saw me standing under the streetlight. Her voice wasn't angry. Not yet. It was more afraid. Like the world had tilted and no one told her. "You promised," she said. That was the first thing she accused me of. "You said you'd always take care of us." I didn't reply. I turned. Started walking. "You can't just leave," she shouted. "You don't get to do this." But I could. And I did. Because she had already left. She just hadn't packed a bag. The paperwork had been waiting. I'd spent the last month preparing it. Slowly, quietly. One lawyer. One accountant. No friends. No family. I didn't need advice. I needed escape routes. Within 48 hours, I had removed my name from the mortgage. Signed over the title of the house. Filed a legal waiver of parental rights for Jess. Not out of spite, out of accuracy. She wasn't mine. Never had been. Now, on paper, I wasn't hers either. What they called structure, what they leaned on and built a life around, had vanished. Not in anger. In clarity. This wasn't a reaction. This was a decision years in the making. One Jess had spoken aloud for me. One Linda had endorsed without hesitation. "She's not your daughter. Then I would not be her father." I didn't answer texts. Didn't return voicemails. Not from Linda. Not from her parents. Not from the two mutual friends who dared reach out with concern. I changed numbers. Updated my driver's license. Changed jobs, transferred within the company to the Houston branch. Started sleeping in a furnished studio with a broken heater and no dishwasher. It was perfect. No expectations. No noise. No stockings on the wall missing my name. I kept the toothbrush from Denver in a locked drawer. Not because I was still waiting for the test results. Because I already knew. Because that toothbrush had more truth in it than anything Linda had ever said to me. A week later, Linda found me. I don't know how, maybe through the HR address on a forgotten envelope, maybe through my old email. She showed up outside the office building in the cold. Arms crossed. Hair tangled like she hadn't slept in days. "You disappeared," she said. I didn't stop walking. She followed me to the parking garage. "You can't just erase everything. We have a life. We have a family." I stopped. Turned. "No," I said. "You have a pregnancy. You have a daughter. You have a house. I had obligations. I met them. And now I'm done." She flinched like the word done was a slap. "You're punishing us." "No. I'm correcting the record." Her mouth trembled. "It's Christmas." I nodded. "And for the first time in 10 years, I don't have to pay for it." That's when she finally showed her cards. Her eyes narrowed. "You don't care about us." I laughed. Just once. Hollow. Sharp. "You said it yourself, Linda. She's not my daughter. That makes you my roommate. And roommates pay their own bills." That night, I sat alone in my new apartment. Ate leftover Chinese food. No tree. No music. No laughter in another room that didn't include me. It was peaceful. Not joyful. Not warm. But peaceful. I thought about Jess, how she used to call me Dad when she was little. How she once held my hand in the parking lot and asked if I'd still be there when she got older. I said yes. But then she got older. And I got erased. The calls began in January. Not from Linda. Not at first. From the school. From the gas company. From the credit card companies asking where the payments had gone. I gave them the same answer. I no longer reside there. It became a mantra. A cleansing fire. Kept one photo. Just one. From when Jess was 10. A water park trip. Her in a green swimsuit. Me holding her on my shoulders while she screamed with joy. That photo stays in my drawer. Not because I miss her. Because I need to remember what it looked like to believe I mattered. I learned something in that silence. You don't leave a family. You just stop pretending you're part of one. And eventually they notice. Not because they miss you, but because the bills stop getting paid. And suddenly they remember the man who kept the lights on. Now tell me. If someone looks you in the eye, in your own home, and says, "You're not part of this family," what would you do? Would you keep paying the bills? Would you keep setting the table? Would you keep calling yourself Dad to someone who only calls you the Wi-Fi guy? Or would you walk? Because I did. And I'm not sorry. Not even a little. The first real consequence came in the form of a knock. It was loud. Not polite. Not uncertain. Not the knock of a neighbor or a delivery guy. It was the kind of knock that carried weight behind it. Urgency wrapped in panic. I opened the door to see Jess. She was standing there on the threshold of my new apartment like someone had thrown her out of a moving car. Eyes wide. Mascara streaked. Fingers clenched tightly around the straps of a backpack that looked far too small for the life she used to live. "I didn't know where else to go," she said. It had been 21 days since the last time I heard her voice. 21 days since the Christmas Eve dinner when she told me I didn't belong. Now she was shivering under a fluorescent hallway light, alone, waiting for the man she'd erased to become her safety net again. I stepped aside, let her in, not because I forgave her, because I wanted to see what survival looked like when entitlement ran out. She sat on the edge of the couch like it belonged to someone she didn't know. Which it did. "I came home from school and everything was," she started. Then stopped. Tried again. "The tuition's gone. They said I was dropped for non-payment." I said nothing. "I thought there was a mistake," she added. "I thought Mom. I thought maybe something bounced. I didn't know you." She trailed off. Her eyes scanned the room, as if searching for the version of me she remembered. The one who paid, who fixed, who rescued. Instead, she found this. A small apartment with bare walls, cheap blinds, and no hint of family. No photos. No furniture that said permanence. Just silence. "I need help," she said finally. I leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Help from who?" I asked. She blinked, confused. "From you." I shook my head slowly. "You made it clear I'm not part of your family, that I'm just the guy who pays for Wi-Fi. So help me understand, Jess. If I'm not your father, what exactly do you think I owe you?" Her mouth opened, but no words came. I waited, gave her the space to lie to my face, to paint me as the villain, to say something that would let her feel righteous in her need. But she didn't, because the truth sat between us like a loaded *P***N, and neither of us knew how to disarm it. "I was angry," she whispered. "That night. I didn't mean it." "You said it," I replied. "And your mother backed you up." She looked down, pulled at the zipper of her bag like a child. "She said we'd be okay, that you'd get over it." I nodded. "I did." She stayed for an hour, told me about the warnings from school, the emails, the sudden emails, the blocked family phone plan, the Uber app that stopped working, the grocery card that now declined at checkout, the Wi-Fi back at the house that cut out and never came back. She cried at one point, real tears. I believed that, but I didn't reach for her, didn't offer a tissue. "I'm trying," she said. "I didn't know how much you were doing. I didn't see it." "No," I said. You didn't want to. She swallowed hard. So what now? I looked at her for a long time, studied her face. The girl I raised. The girl I drove to soccer practice, helped with algebra, read bedtime stories to. The girl who called me dad, until someone whispered into her ear that biology was more important than loyalty. What do you think should happen now? I asked. I don't know. That's honest, I said. And it's a start. But it's not enough. She waited for me to speak again. I didn't. Eventually, she stood, picked up her bag, wiped her face. Can I come back? She asked, barely above a whisper. To what? I asked. The house? The money? The life you had before you told me I didn't matter? Her eyes glistened. To you. I took a breath, let it out slow, then shook my head. Not yet. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I didn't feel proud, or vindicated, or strong. I felt clean. That's all. Like I had rinsed something off after years of letting it fester. A few days later, Linda called. Blocked number. I answered. You broke her, she said. No hello. No explanation. Just accusation. No, I replied. I told her the truth. The world finished the job. You think this makes you righteous? Cutting us off? Abandoning your family? I laughed once. Just once. I didn't abandon anyone. I stepped aside. You pushed me there. She's a child, Linda snapped. She didn't understand what she was saying. She's 17. Old enough to *p***nize her words. Old enough to clean up after them. There was a silence. Then, what do you want from us? What would make this right? The question hung there, heavy. It wasn't an apology. It was a negotiation. You don't get to ask that, I said. You already decided what I was worth. I hung up. Jess didn't come back the next day, or the day after. But I saw her once, through the window of the coffee shop near my office. She was working behind the counter, wiping tables, taking orders, wearing the uniform of someone who had never worked before. I didn't go in. She didn't see me, but she looked older, a little smaller, a little more human, and I wondered, just for a moment, if this was what growth looked like when it had to happen without safety nets. A week later, a letter came, from the school. Official. Cold. It listed the outstanding balance on her account. Final warnings. Closure dates. At the bottom, a note from the financial office. Previously subsidized by step-parent account. No longer active. I folded it carefully. Filed it in a drawer I didn't plan to open again. I think part of me expected Todd to show up. To swoop in. Offer a check. Some performance of redemption. But men like Todd don't come through. That's their gift to the world. Their absence. Their silence. Their ghostly power to ruin without effort. He stayed gone. Just like always. Sometimes I imagined Linda standing at the counter, opening the fridge to find it empty. No groceries. No leftovers. No wine. Jess sitting at the table, eyes on her phone, waiting for a payment notification that never came. The dog scratching at the door, still waiting for me to come home. It wasn't satisfaction. It was proof. Proof that I had mattered. That my silence was loud enough to echo. One night, I got a knock at the door. It wasn't Jess. It was Linda. No makeup. No posture. Just tired eyes and a folder in her hands. I came to talk, she said. I let her in. We sat across from each other like strangers in a bank office. She opened the folder. Results came back, she said. From the lab. She slid the page across the table. I didn't reach for it. You already know what it says, I told her. She nodded. They're not yours. Of course they weren't. And still, hearing it stung. Because even the betrayal needed confirmation. Even lies deserved their full weight. I'm sorry, she said. I raised an eyebrow. For what? I asked. The affair? The lie? Or the assumption that I'd keep paying for a life that didn't include me? She didn't answer. She just sat there, quiet, folding and unfolding her hands. I didn't think it would matter, she said eventually. You were always there. I thought you wouldn't leave. That was the problem. She left without asking for anything. I didn't offer her water, or money, or warmth. I walked her to the door and locked it behind her. Then I sat in the dark and stared at the folder she left behind. Still didn't open it. Didn't need to. The bills kept coming, but not to me. They went to her, to Todd, to the people who shared blood. I had only shared sacrifice. And it turns out that's not enough when it comes time to divide responsibility. I saw Jess one more time. She came to the apartment just before her birthday. She didn't knock, just waited in the hallway until I opened the door. "I'm not asking for money," she said. I nodded. "I just wanted you to know I'm working. I'm staying in school. I'm trying." I looked at her, really looked at her. She had grown, not in height, in weight, in consequence. "I'm proud of that," I said. "Even if I never call you Dad again?" she asked. I took a breath, let it settle. "Even then." She nodded, and left. No hug, no tears, just distance, and truth. The silence didn't end, thickened, followed me through spring, into summer. Past holidays I no longer tracked. I stopped counting anniversaries, stopped scrolling through old photos, even stopped checking the accounts. There was nothing left to watch. The house was theirs now. The life too. I had withdrawn cleanly, without smoke or wreckage, like a man stepping out of a burning room, closing the door behind him, and leaving the matchbook inside. I didn't even tell anyone. Not my brother. Not my coworkers. Nobody at the new job knew I'd been married, that I'd raised a child, that I'd once gone to school plays and dentist appointments and stayed up till 2 a.m. helping a teenager rewrite a college essay that she would later say I had ruined. They knew me only as Michael, the quiet guy from Dallas. Good with numbers, better with silence. That suited me. I didn't want pity. I wanted peace. Jess wrote once. A letter. Actual pen and paper. Inside was a single paragraph. "I still don't know what to call you. I still don't know how to say thank you without it sounding cheap. I'm working. I'm going to graduate. I think about you more than I say out loud. I hope you're okay. I hope someday you'll be proud of me." No return address. No request for money. No manipulation. Just the sound of a bridge being rebuilt, plank by plank, without asking me to walk across it. I didn't write back. Not because I was angry, because I was finally at peace with the fact that some bridges aren't for returning. Some are just there to remind you where not to go again. Linda never came back. Not in person. Not through the courts. Not even through back channels. I think deep down she knew she had spent every ounce of goodwill I had. The last time I saw her, her eyes had nothing left in them. Not rage. Not regret. Just fatigue. The fatigue of someone who finally realized the scaffolding she'd leaned on wasn't part of the house. It was the only thing keeping it upright. And now it was gone. I wondered sometimes if she had the twins. If they were healthy. If they looked like him. Ryan, the man she chose to protect more than the one who paid for her life. But I never checked. That chapter had no pages left for me. I kept working. Moved into a slightly larger place. Bought a better mattress. Cooked meals that only needed one plate. The quiet no longer hurt. It hummed. Some nights I sat on the balcony and watched the city lights flicker like a constellation of tiny truths. And I thought about what I'd learned. Not from being a stepfather. From being forgotten. Here's what I know now. You can give everything. Every dollar. Every hour. Every breath. You can show up when others don't. Pay the bills. Wash the dishes. Drive to appointments. Stay up late for school projects. Clap at recitals. Defend them when they lie. Feed them when they're cruel. And it still won't be enough. Not if the people you're giving to have already decided what you're not. Not if they've drawn a line in their hearts and placed you just outside of it. The world will tell you that love is sacrifice. But sacrifice without recognition isn't love. The servitude. And I had spent too long mistaking silence for stability. Mistaking endurance for strength. Mistaking usefulness for love. I wasn't a father. I was a utility. And when utilities stop working, they don't get thanked. They get replaced. Sometimes people ask if I'd do it again. if I'd marry someone with a child, if I'd step into that role knowing how it ends. And I answer honestly, I don't know. Because back then I believed in effort, in consistency, in showing up. I believed that presence was everything. But now I know presence without respect is just proximity. It doesn't matter if you're in the room, if your name is never written on the door. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. But I am changed. I don't give to be seen anymore. I don't build homes out of hope. I don't buy groceries for people who call me invisible. I still believe in love. But I believe it needs to be mutual, earned, spoken, defended. And when it's not, you walk, not out of spite, out of self-respect. One day, years from now, maybe Jess will knock on my door again. Maybe she'll stand there older, wiser, with children of her own. Maybe she'll ask me what happened, why I didn't come back, why I didn't save them one more time. And if that day comes, I'll tell her the truth, that I already did, over and over. And when they finally pushed me out, I let them feel the silence they had created. Because sometimes silence is the only teacher that gets through. So now I ask you, whoever you are, wherever you're reading this, if you had stood where I stood, if you had given what I gave, would you have stayed? Would you have kept the lights on, knowing no one would thank you for it? Would you have carried the weight of a family that kept calling you a stranger? Or would you have done what I did, and walked? Tell me, was I wrong? Or was I simply the first to stop pretending?